In the first two videos for today, we worked on solving equations with decimals. Now we're going to apply decimals to one more algebra thing that we've learned this year. We're going to work on simplifying expressions with positive and negative decimals and using the order of operations, or the operations with decimals that we know. And so it says simplify the expressions using distributive property and combining like terms. So we always want to do the distributive property first and then combine like terms if we have them. So on this first example, we can distribute. And the first thing we're going to have to do is 4/10 times 3. And 4/10 times 3 is 1 2/10, because after this decimal there's one digit. The 3 is a whole number, so my decimal goes after it, and there are no numbers after that decimal. So 1 plus 0 is 1. That means there's one decimal point in my answer, and I'm getting 1 2/10. I also recognize that a negative times a positive is a negative 1 2/10, and then I can add in my x. So negative 4/10 times 3x is negative 1 2/10 x. Then we need to read the subtraction sign as a negative. If you need to copy, change, change, copy, change, change, so you see you're doing a negative times a negative, which is a positive. We've got plus here, and we have to do 12 5/10 times 0 4/10. And again, a negative times a negative is a positive, so this answer will be positive. We're going to be adding a positive here at the end. And so now I'm just going to ignore my decimals and start my multiplication. 4 times 5 is 20, carry my 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10, carry my 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Now, after this decimal point is one digit. After this decimal point is one digit. 1 plus 1 is 2, so that means there are two digits after the decimal in my answer, which puts me at 5. And so I can put 5 up here. So negative 4/10 times the quantity 3x minus 12 5/10 simplified, we use the distributive property, is negative 1 2/10 x plus 5. On this last example here, we're going to be combining like terms. So there's no distributive property because there's no parentheses. And so when I combine like terms, I'm looking for terms with the same variable and the same exponent. And so in this case, I've got 3 like terms. They all have a y with no exponent, or with a 1 as an exponent. And so the first thing I have to do is 3 minus 1 7/10. Remember that if 3 is a whole number, the decimal goes right after the 3. And when we add and subtract, we definitely need to line up our decimals. So 3 0/10 minus 1 7/10 is what I'm going to do first. I cannot do 0 minus 7, so I'm going to have to borrow. 10 minus 7 is 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. And I line up my decimals even in my answer here. So 3y minus 1 7/10 y is 1 3/10 y, plus 6 4/10 y. Now these two things are also like terms because they have the same variable and the same exponent. So I'm going to add 1 3/10 plus 6 4/10. 3 plus 4 is 7. 1 plus 6 is 7. Line up my decimals, bring it down, and I've got 7 7/10 y. So 3y minus 1 7/10 y plus 6 4/10 y simplified is 7 7/10 y. Because we combined like terms using adding and subtracting, we made sure to line up our decimals as we added and subtracted. And when we had a whole number, we put the decimal after the ones place or after the whole number, and then added a 0 to help us out. And our final answer again was 7 7/10 y.